Georgia Keefe is one of the most significant artists of the 20th century. She is renowned for her contribution to modern art. Born on November 15, 1887, the second of 7 children, O'Keefe grew up on a farm near Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. By the time she graduated from high school in 1905, she was determined to be an artist. She studied at the Art Institute of Chicago and the Art Students League in New York, where she learned the techniques of traditional painting, such as these landscapes. She then spent 2 years teaching art in West Texas and experimenting with abstract art. Through a series of abstract charcoal drawings, she developed a personal language to better express her feelings and ideas. Georgia met other artists who, like her, were experimenting with abstract art. This encouraged her to develop her own unique style, a combination of abstract colors and shades with realism. Also beginning in the 1920s, were O'Keefe's beloved botanical works. She was often inspired by her visits to upstate New York. Rather than creating an overall portrait of a flower, tree, or a landscape, she enlarged areas of her subject while capturing it in vivid detail. O'Keeffe often commented that the color and form of the flowers was more important to her than the subject matter. She was more interested in its natural form and in capturing its beauty. By the mid-1920s, O'Keeffe was recognized as one of America's most important and successful artists, known for her paintings of New York skyscrapers. In the summer of 1929, O'Keeffe made the first of many trips to northern New Mexico. The stark landscape and Native American and Hispanic cultures of the region inspired a new direction in her art. As well as the shapes of the landscape itself, O'Keeffe was fascinated by the bones and skulls she found in the desert landscape and where she lived. For the next 20 years, she spent most of her summers living and working in New Mexico, and finally in 1949, she made the state her permanent home. At the age of 73, she took on a new subject, the aerial views of clouds in the sky. She was inspired by looking out the airplane windows during her trips around the world. Late in life and almost blind, she enlisted the help of several assistants to enable her to continue creating art. She drew on her memory and her vivid imagination while creating these paintings. On March 6, 1986, Georgia O'Keeffe died in Santa Fe at the age of 98. Out of 2,000 paintings in her lifetime, 200 of these were flowers. So from what you've learned, Georgia O'Keeffe is most famous for her huge flowers. Can you imagine that such a small part of the flower is enormously large? Now it's your turn to try. Before we begin our step-by-step instructions, I'm going to give you several examples of what is right size and what is wrong. So what is wrong with this one? If you notice that it's nice and big when it's drawn, but none of the edges are touching the outside of the paper. And this one is way too small and way too many flowers. This flower is pretty big, but it's not very detailed. There's still a lot of empty space in the background. This is exactly what you're looking for. The object is abstract, it's touching all of the sides of the paper, and it's nice and big. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do is find an object from nature, such as a flower. You want to find some details inside the flower and figure out what you want to draw. You're going to start drawing this nice and big with a pencil. Step 2, remember you're drawing nice and big and you want to fill up the entire paper. Think about the flower as if it fell off the paper. You must touch all 4 sides of your paper with the object. Once you've finished drawing out your flower, and you're happy with all the details, you're going to take a black marker to trace all of the lines. So for step 4, you're going to start coloring. Use 2 colors, whether they're crayons, color pencils, or markers, to color your details. For each petal, I started out with using the red in the middle, and it gradually faded into the purple. Continue using your 2 colors to completely color in your flower. Take your time coloring petal by petal, allowing each color to blend in with the next. Keep coloring until you have your very own finished O'Keeffe-inspired flower. This video was created by Elena Calebro for her art class, created with work by Georgia O'Keeffe.